Murdaugh. He's on trial, of course, for the murders of his son Paul and wife Maggie back on June 7th of 2021. He says he didn't do it, and he says that he's looking forward through his lawyers. They released a statement the other night to finding the real killer or killers. So we've heard that language before in another case. Remember O.J. Simpson put out a similar statement back in the 90s after he was acquitted. So we're still early on in this trial, though. We're just in the second day of testimony. Let's get to some of your questions. We've had them coming in. We have a great panel here. Gigi McKelvey is there in Walterboro, South Carolina. Michael Bryant of Law and Crime, a host here, is with me, as is Rich Schoenstein, a litigator. Our next question comes from Christine S. from YouTube. What do you think about the lack of Buster's emotion? I'm not so sure about that, Gigi. We were talking about that earlier. Buster actually has shown some emotion, I think.
Yeah, he has. And he did today, like I said earlier, when they showed those shotgun shells that murdered his brother. And, you know, you can tell his face gets really red. He'll kind of put his head down, put his elbows on his knees. I've seen him wipe his face a couple of times. Others have noticed. So I do think that he's showing emotion, maybe just in the way he does. But we all have seen some emotion, especially today, of all day so far.
Yeah, definitely. Our next question comes from Troy Stalk from YouTube. Is it normal to offer the jury to go to the scene of the crime when the case is being heard? I don't think I've heard of that besides this case. Rich, we know that that happens. It's something that has to be requested, though.
Yeah, that does happen a lot of times. The question is whether going to the scene of the crime would help the jury at all in determining the facts. Would it help the jury to look around and see this really sprawling estate? You know, it's one thing to look at pictures and diagrams and maps, but to actually be there, it might be beneficial for the jury. But one side or the other has to request it, the court has to order it, and then, of course, you have to do it. And then, again, it'll only happen if it's going to be of value.
Definitely. And I think Dick Harpootlian said he wants the jury to go out there. He wants them to see this property. So they're going to go out there. This could have many, many different effects. I'm thinking of a number of things that I think could happen with this jury as they go on to this huge, huge property that I think was up for sale for $3.4 million. It might have actually sold. I'll double check on that. Horn Pub from YouTube. Does Alex have a spring in his neck? I don't think so. So I'll just take that one. I think that he's just having some trouble with this. And we talked about that earlier. Samantha Smith from YouTube asks, if he checked vitals and tried to turn Paul over, Michael Bryan, I'll send this one to you. If Alex checked vitals and tried to turn Paul over, then why are his clothes clean? Nothing on his knees, but the ground was wet. No blood on him or his hands. They are insinuating that he changed clothes. We kind of spoke about that earlier. Do you think that he would have had time to change clothes given what we know about the timeline?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, that's totally unknown. And we know there was some questioning about where he checked for a pulse, which got into kind of an uncomfortable moment because there wasn't much of a neck left to check the pulse there where some might think to check. So if it was done, it was at the wrist. And that was the question which was left hanging. Well, if that happened and we assume that there was blood on Paul's body in that area, that's, I think, a safe assumption. We don't know. We didn't see the photos. But then, yeah, there might have been some transfer. The question then again becomes, was there time to clean it up? And we just don't know yet.
We simply don't know. We need to get some more information about this timeline. Our next question comes from Up to No Good, at Up to No Good 2021 from Twitter. Alex stated he went to visit his mother prior to the 911 call. Would he have had time to shower and dispose of his clothing? With his mother having dementia, she would not have been a reliable witness. Therefore, his, quote, alibi would be safe with her. Rich, we've been talking about this. Everybody, I think the clothes are the hot topic of the day. Everybody wants to know about the clothes. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, that's going to be a key issue. I mean, first of all, to have your alibi witness be somebody who just happens to have dementia, I'm sure the prosecution is going to argue that's a pretty convenient alibi witness. You have an alibi that we can't check. But the question as to whether he could have gone to do that, gotten into new clothes, not just get into clothes, but clean off. I mean, if he really did this, in theory, there would be blood spattered onto his face or spattered onto his hands or arms. So he wouldn't just have to change, he would have to clean up. And the question of whether he would have had time to do that is a big, important one for this case.
I think you're right about that. And I mean, I don't think people understand how hard it would be to clean something like that up. I mean, blood, it's not like paint. I mean, that would be a horrific, horrific scene. I think that we can only just imagine. Thank goodness most of us can only imagine that. BMC from YouTube, did his mother reach out to him to come by the house? Was she texting, talking to him, and seemed off or nervous? I'm not really sure about that. I'll take that one. Let's get now to James Russell from YouTube. The defense lawyer has tried to suggest the initial officers allowed the contamination of the crime scene. Does this have any merit? Gigi, how do you think that that's playing in the courtroom?
I mean, I think that that's what Harpootlian is focused, or at least yesterday, he really focused on the fact that it seemed to be just an open crime scene for quite a while before Sled got there. And you think about all these officers walking into that feed room with nothing on their shoes. And from everything we've heard, unfortunately, brain, skull, a lot of tissue was all over that tiny little feed room. So, yeah, I think it's a good point that the defense brought up yesterday, which is, how do you know you did not contaminate the scene or mess up evidence that could have cleared him or implicated the real killer? I think that's going to be something he's going to stay on this entire trial.
I think you're right about that. And it's a valid question. I mean, it's a crime scene that is very bloody and very gory. Gigi, we're going to sign you off. It's been great to be with you as always and let you get back into the courtroom. Michael and Rich and I will be back after this break that we have to take. Keep the questions coming. We'll get to more of them. I'm Anjanette Levy, and you've been watching our lunch show Q&A here on Law and Crime. Stay with us.